RJ, today there is a very big reason to celebrate. Can you guess what it is?
Well, looking at the calendar here, it seems like the end of way too early month.
Well, it is that. I was going to say it's hashtag August is over party. Woo! Hockey stuff can happen again. Thank God. The 1 month, we made
Yes,
it. We made it, everybody. We made it through August. It's a long month sometimes. It could be a really long month in terms of hockey, but we made it. I think we had a lot of fun pumping out lots of fun content, including these way too early videos. I had so much fun doing this, and we had lots of comments after our last one, RJ, the over under. Lots of people wanting to participate in this. Okay, right? And so people were leaving their picks in the comments and all that stuff. I'm super thankful for all of that. Enjoy reading it always. But what we thought we'd do is actually take a page out of what some of you were telling us to do, and that's we're going to try to like keep track of everybody's predictions for the year, and we'll see at the end of the year who does the best job predicting. So in the coming weeks, sometime before training camp, we're going to have like a Google form that everybody can fill out, post their over unders, post maybe who's going to lead some stat categories. We haven't finalized exactly what's going to be on it, but we want to have some way of having everybody be able to participate, and then we'll be able to track it as the season goes. Maybe put out obviously like a mid-season standings where everybody's at, and then maybe do something fun for whoever ends up being the winner, like a shirt giveaway or something. But I think it'll be a lot of fun, and just like an extra little something to keep everybody engaged. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So definitely looking forward to that. Thanks so much for engaging and participating so much in these videos. It was just kind of like a crazy idea we had for a month in which nothing really happens. And glad that the community has been so, well receiving of it.
absolutely. Thank you for keeping us, all here entertained, talking about hockey over August. It's a tough month in the hockey calendar. It really is. But this is the most fun I've had in an August of a hockey season for sure.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and so one of the things we've been doing, as this is the last of the way too early videos, and it's a great one, and I'm sure you've already read the title, you've seen the thumbnail, you know that we're giving our way too early Kraken Mount Rushmore picks. All right, but before we jump into that, I'm sorry this video has a little bit of a long preamble. I gotta just give you a shout out, RJ, for scoring me this awesome, authentic Adam Larsson deep V, like, whatever these are called. It's kind of like a hoodie sweater thing, from the equipment sale. This is straight from Adam Larsson. He cut this deep V in there, making me look all sexy in this video. It's like totally oversized because, believe it or not, I'm not like 6'4" like him. So his cut off sleeves that were probably just a little bit too long for him, they like hang down to my elbow. Like they're in the crease of my elbow. But it's nice, it's warm, it's comfy, and it reminds me of the big cat. So thank you.
I must say, Dylan, it looks great on you. It's exactly as I pictured it. Yeah, I teased this a little bit earlier that I went to the equipment sale and I saw something that I just knew you had to have. So I got it for you, and I gotta say, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it feels fantastic. Once again, thank you so much for picking this up for me. I really appreciate it, and now everybody gets to enjoy it too. Super excited about that. Okay, so moving on into what this video is really about, RJ. Back in his Yahoo Sports days, Greg Wyshynski, a hockey writer you and I both adore, followed him forever. Like, forever, it feels like. And I'm sure he'd love to be reminded of how long he's been doing stuff like this. But back in his Yahoo Sports days, one of the things he would do during the dead times of the off season is he'd pick some sort of like thing to go team by team and just kind of write a little article about them, about each team, and like every couple days release a different one through probably August, thinking back. One of the favorite ones that he did was the Mount Rushmores, where he gave who his Mount Rushmore for each franchise would be. The 4 people that best represent that franchise are most important to it. It's not necessarily the best players, because then you just end up looking at stats, and whoever has the most stats or whatever end up there. It can't be strictly the most important people in the most literal sense of the word, because then you just get like Gary Bettman and 3 members of the ownership group, and that's no fun for anybody. But people who were like foundational pillars for that team, iconic players for that team, or front office members, coaches, all that kind of stuff, people that best represented what that team was all about and everything. And so I thought, to close out way too early, what would be a better way too early than to just way too early pick who belongs on the Seattle Kraken Mount Rushmore of, franchise cornerstones, pillars, all that kind of stuff. The most impactful people who we think, are not just necessarily the most impactful people for the team right now and the foundational members of the team right now, but who will be there, for a while. Who are we going to look back on and go like, yeah, you know what? This team doesn't exist without these people. So what do you think about that, RJ?
Sounds like a fun idea. I'm ready to get going.
Yes. So I will, real quick, before we totally go into it, I know I did a little bit of a bait and switch there, but I do think that it's important that we, mention the history behind Mount Rushmore real quick, just because it has been a more talked about thing lately. If you're anything like me, for the longest time, all you knew about Mount Rushmore was it's got the 4 faces on there, and that Roger Thornhill ends up hanging off of it at the end of North by Northwest. So, but it does have a longer, more controversial history, and just want to touch on that and throw it out there, because I do think that it's worth mentioning that the Lakota people got screwed in the whole creation of the Mount Rushmore thing. The land was taken from them after a treaty had been signed giving them said land. This shouldn't be a hot take for anybody. In 1980, the U.S. Supreme Court said as much. They ruled a settlement for them and everything. It's been a thing, but it has never truly been resolved. So I just want to put that out there, because it is it's a bad situation for them. They got screwed. I think it's important to acknowledge that when we talk about this monument. Okay. Now we can dig into this, RJ. First, I'll go first, okay? Do you want to take a guess and maybe who you think I put on my Kraken Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, you know what? I'll take a guess, because I've been thinking about this. We don't know each other's Mount Rushmore here, but I'm going to take a guess at yours. I've been trying to figure out who it might be. All right, are you ready for my guess?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Todd Lewicki, Grunge, Martin Jones,
yes,
and Dave Tippett.
Oh my God, you got 3 out of the 4, RJ. You got 3 out of 4. 75%. That's a C.
There we go. Video's over. I already spoiled it. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, slap that on the thumbnail. Get out of here. Don't even need to record the rest of this video. Yeah, no, it's not quite some of those names. It'd be great to put Tippett up there, considering he hasn't actually like totally been involved in the organization, really. Yeah, no, I kind of stuck with how they chose the 4 presidents that are actually on there. Okay, and this is something, again, didn't know much about Mount Rushmore. It's not really something they teach you in school. It's more just something that you see on, a chapter of a history book cover, so to speak. The 4 presidents were chosen to represent the nation's birth, growth, development, and preservation. Okay, so I kind of used that when developing who I chose for the Seattle Kraken within there. So starting with birth, this is where I have Lewicki, because without Lewicki financing this whole thing, the team does not exist. All right, and really Fair enough. Should be like Lewicki with like the rest of everybody involved in the ownership group, right? Like it took everybody to kind of help make that happen, but without them, the Kraken don't exist, right? The expansion fee that was what, $500 million, I believe, doesn't get paid. Yep. The arena doesn't get made. The team doesn't exist. Like, just none of it happens. The players aren't paid to play for it, any of that. So I do think that it is important to acknowledge that aspect of bringing the NHL to Seattle, and the person who at the end of the day was able to make that happen. The other option being Gary Bettman, but I feel like to put the commissioner on one team's Mount Rushmore isn't like the greatest of ideas.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you might get a little bit of backlash for that. Wouldn't be the most popular move, I feel like.
I feel like I'll probably get backlash for most of these. So next, all right, the Kraken have been born. Now they got to grow, right? Who better to do that than Ron Francis, general manager of the team, the man who was put in charge of the expansion draft to put together the first ever Kraken squad, who was put in charge of all of their amateur drafts that we've seen so far, to find the next pieces for the Kraken, and then build them up, which is the next thing, development. We'll get to that in a second. But Ron Francis, to me, best represents the growth, right? You have this team, you need somebody to make it a thing, because really otherwise you just have the franchise. You got a logo, you got a name, okay, that's all cool, but at the end of the day you need people to play the game, right? And that's the next step in growth for a franchise, and Ron Francis was the guy to make that happen, and he's going to be the guy to make that happen for the foreseeable future. And I have a feeling when we look back, after the Kraken have maybe won a Stanley Cup, but certainly after some playoff runs and stuff like that in the coming years, I think we're going to be able to point a lot at the work that Ron Francis did to grow this team from their, expansion draft day through to whatever it is that they become. Next, we have development, and this is where I'm going to put Matty Beniers, because he's, first pick in franchise history as far as amateur draft. We've already seen his development, but I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And assuming he develops into the player that we think he's going to be, he's going to best represent this, because he'll be the first homegrown Kraken star. And I think how better to represent development of the franchise than with a player like that, right? Like, it just makes sense. I don't know. I don't think you gotta overthink this. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I little's bit of spoiler for mine, but I may have Matty Beniers on there as well, and in a similar type of role.
Exactly. Now, the last one is preservation, and this is where Lincoln comes in, because he preserved the Union and all that kind of stuff. But one of the words that they pair with preservation a lot through all the stuff that I read about with Mount Rushmore was also his perseverance in preserving said Union. And I like perseverance a lot more than I like preservation, at least when it comes to something like this. So we're going with that instead, and that's where I have Philip Grubauer. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He was our first major free agent signing. He's going to be the goaltender for the foreseeable future through the first bit of franchise history. He's going to hold both of those kind of monikers of, like, biggest free agent signing and also the goaltender who's got to make all this happen. He's already become a fan favorite, so he's got that going for him. But just the fact that he hung in there through a historically bad season last year to fight his way back to being, quote unquote average from a statistical standpoint. And I think over the next couple seasons, we're going to see him grow with the rest of this team. We're going to see him bounce back to the Vezina caliber guy he was before. And it's just going to have so much of the feels involved. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're going to be even more so attached to him. We're going to be chanting Gru throughout Climate Pledge Arena just more and more and more. And I think what a better way to talk about perseverance than with the goalie who had to go through those struggles early on and is going to continue to go through them, right? Like, he's still got to get to the second season and show, hey, I can justify the free agent contract that I signed and all that kind of stuff. But to me, I think he best represents perseverance and just that, stepping forward. And I do think if the Kraken do find team success, he's going to be a part of it. And we're going to look back at that first season and talk about that journey that he took, that we all took with him as well, when we get there.
Absolutely. I mean, he will be the guy in net. We do know that, for better or for worse. And I think we're, predicting success there. So I do like that pick, actually.
Yeah. So that's mine. Leiweke, Francis, Beniers, Grubauer. Go ahead, everybody. Pause the video. Let me have it in the comments section. It's fine. Come at me on Discord, on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And then RJ, let's go for yours. We already got a hint a little bit, but I'm curious to see who you chose.
All right, so here's my Mount Rushmore. And Dylan, I gotta say, I love that you went with the themes of birth, growth, development, preservation, that you really looked into the history and kind of the symbolism behind that. So as you were saying your four names, I was looking at mine, and I think I'm gonna try and line them up with those four as well, because I think that's a great way to do it. And I'll go in the same order that you did. And I will start with birth. And this first player, I think, fits really well into that, and it's Ryan Donato. So when you think of the birth of the franchise, you think of franchise firsts. You know, it is after the team started playing, so I know you went a little earlier with ownership. But when I think of kind of first moments of the team, Ryan Donato stands out to me. Obviously, scored the first goal in franchise history, and also his story too was a big part of what I feel was the attitude for the Kraken in their first season, in their inaugural season. Donato came on as someone who maybe in the last chance of his NHL career, depending on how he did. They brought him in, gave him a chance, and he really became a name that Seattle and the Kraken embraced. And I think he's someone that's always going to be remembered in that light, and especially since he earned another contract with the team. Ryan Donato is a face on that Mount Rushmore that kind of symbolizes those early years of the team and the team's birth. So I'm going to go with him as the first face on this Mount Rushmore. So the second one I'm going to go with for growth, and this is one where I have differ from you again, is Yanni Gourde. So here's basically the path. The way I did this for the Mount Rushmore is I tried to see what is each person's path here to getting their face on Mount Rushmore, and you kind of have to forecast a little bit into the future, right? Because at this point, it's so hard to say. That's the whole point of the way too early, right? You've got to think a little bit creatively. So here's the path that I see for Yanni Gourde to getting to this point. Gourde is named captain out of training camp this year. This is something that, we've thought is definitely a possibility. So let's say that they decide not to maybe go Beniers quite yet. Yanni Gourde is named captain, and the Kraken turn things around, become a playoff team in pretty short order, whether that's next season or the season after. And as Beniers and Shane Wright kind of grow into top six center roles, Yanni Gourde goes back to being that matchup nightmare as a 3C for the remainder of his contract. Then, let's say, at the end of it, signs a team-friendly 3-year extension, takes him to age 36, hands the captaincy to Beniers, and, passes the torch or whatever. Scores a clutch goal or two, maybe in a cup run early into the new deal. And Gourde goes down as the original fan favorite. He won that award in the team's first season. The guy who led the team through its turnaround and kind of the first real face of the franchise and captain that everyone really remembers for a while. And that would earn him a spot on the Mount Rushmore. And so I think when you talk about team growth turning into, from the infancy of the franchise, someone who was there for that transition into contender status, I think Yanni Gourde, that's kind of the path that I see for him.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick.
All right, so now I'm getting into the two names that you did have. So we're going to have some overlap. And development, Matty Beniers. I already kind of hinted at this. I thought you made the point really well as far as Matty Beniers and development, kind of growing with the team and everything. I think this one probably needs the least explanation. He's already the first line center heading into his first full season. I think we're both convinced he's going to be the captain of this team eventually, right? And one thing I almost felt bad about doing this, I had to really make sure to take the Mount Rushmore like not too seriously, because I feel like we've already piled up so many expectations on Matty Beniers after only 10 games. We're like, oh yeah, look, he's going to be on the team's Mount Rushmore, right? It's something where this is a fun exercise, but the reason I almost felt a little awkward about this is because I see that he's got a real shot of getting there. You kind of understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. And yeah, I mean, there's elements I've probably of both of ours, right? That like long term, 20 years from now, the Mount Rushmore is not going to have some of these faces on them, right? But it's also hard to predict. 20 years from now, they make some free agent signing 2 or 3 years from now, and that person ends up winning them the Stanley Cup with some insane playoff performance. We can't predict that, right? But I do feel like with Beniers, it all just feels like that. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like, yeah, no, he's going to be this franchise's first star and that first homegrown guy, that first guy that they develop themselves. And yeah, it is a struggle, and I totally understand what you were saying about like not wanting to pile on and stuff, but like it's just hard not to.
Yep. So just everyone remember, it's way too early. But
Yes.
yeah, Matt Beniers is my third face there. And for the final one, I'm going with Ron Francis. Now you had him there in the growth, kind of for the representing the growth, and I think you made a good argument for that. Obviously, as the team uh, grows and transitions, he's the one who's laying the groundwork and everything, drafting these younger players. But I looked at it as he's going to be the one to preserve the team culture. And I think when you amass talent like that, and hopefully the prospects that he's drafted turn out to be good, certainly looks good so far. But when you get a good team together, one thing that's really important is having the right team culture and being able to keep everyone together. Because eventually, guys hit RFA years, they hit UFA years. You need someone who's going to be able to keep a team together and preserve the success that, again, hopefully they will have. If we're forecasting this like that, the Kraken, are able to turn things around over the next few years, have success with the core that they've built. Ron Francis is going to have to be the one to kind of keep that all together and to preserve everything and keep it moving forward. And I think with the player friendly culture that he's built, I mean, he's certainly one of the classiest guys in hockey. We've seen, how Jared McCann, willing to re-sign right away on a team-friendly deal, that sort of thing. I think he can keep the team together, keep the culture going, and that's why I have him here under kind of the preservation aspect.
Hey, bravo. I think that's a fantastic explanation. I think you nailed it on that one. Yeah, I mean, somebody like Ron Francis, just everything that he means to this organization, everything that he's already done for the organization, and that we know he's going to continue to do. I mean, you could basically put him on at any of these spots, right? Like he's,
Yep.
birth, right? Like he helped birth the team. He drafted the first roster for it, right? Growth, I made the case for earlier. Development, well, he's the guy in charge of drafting guys and putting in place the system in which they will develop, right? Like I do think that Ron Francis, more so than anybody, should be the face that we kind of have on this the longest. You know what I mean? As that initial builder and as somebody that we both feel pretty confident in saying that he's doing a really good job. He's building things out the right way. There hasn't really been that many head scratching moves. The drafts all seem to be going fantastic. Knock on wood, right? Like
Yeah.
it's one of those that I do feel like Ron Francis more than anyone deserves to be there both now and could have the chance at having the longest tenure on there too, just because of everything that he's doing for this team. So I really like that. And then also just because I didn't get to mention it earlier, I love the Ryan Donato pick and everything that you said about it. That was absolutely fantastic. I think you deserve big credit for that one, and I got to think that that'll be a fan favorite one too.
Yeah, I feel like that one might be might be fairly popular in the comments. We'll see.
Yeah. But I'm really interested to know what other people think and who other people might have on their Seattle Kraken Mount Rushmore. Because I do think that this is an interesting thing. Like, do you believe in kind of going more based off of what we've seen so far? Do you believe in trying to predict the future? Like, you're going to stick. I got to think some people might want to already put like a Shane Wright on there, right? Like
Mhm.
this top tier, more nationally recognized than Matty Beniers talent to come to the team. I think that that is a big deal. Because that was something we didn't really talk about around draft time, was just how like there were so many Montreal fans and stuff that we were seeing that were like, oh, like the Kraken, like all they knew about us was our jerseys, right? But
Exactly.
like now that Shane Wright's here, he adds that, he brings that national attention to us that we didn't have before. And so even that alone, you could make an argument to stick him on the Mount Rushmore, just because he makes the team more, culturally relevant in the hockey community, right? Like there is something to be said for that. It's an interesting thing. I think that's why, despite like the controversies around the actual Mount Rushmore itself and how it all went down, why it lends itself so well to these sports debates is because it isn't just, oh, who are like the five best players in the team's history or whatever, but it has the ability to represent these other things. And I think that that's why it's useful and works so well in a a media elements like what we just did. So really excited to see what people had to say. Really excited for in the couple weeks when we send out that Google form, and so everyone can take part in kind of just like a season long, way too early prediction contest. We'll come up with like a good name for it when that happens. And yeah, thanks so much, everybody, for sticking with us through the off season. It's been long, but training camp's almost here. Can't wait to get started for that as we approach season 2 of the Seattle Kraken. And thanks so much for enjoying all these videos. Not just these way too early videos, but also things like the mascot contest video. If you haven't seen the judging of the fan mascot contest, like, please, everybody, go watch that video. Go
watch it right now.
It's fantastic. So yeah, just all the engagement we've continued to have through the off season, all of that, all the support we've had from everybody through the off season. And I know it's hard, right? You want to go watch the Mariners. They're playing. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I know the struggle. I'm from LA, okay? Once the season ends, that team ends. Basically, you know. that's how it goes down here. But Seattle is different. I'd argue Seattle is much better because people are different up there, and that they do, you know, they still pay attention when their team's in the off season and stuff. And so I just want to say thank you for all of that, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's been such a fun August to be able to cover things that we wouldn't necessarily get to do during the grind of the season and everything. Think about the bigger picture stuff. Yeah, as much as fun as this has been, kind of looking forward also to the transition between, hey, who's going to be on the Mount Rushmore of this team versus, okay, who's playing the bumper spot on the second unit power play today in practice? It'll be fun to get back to that too.
Yeah, one could argue far more relevant to everybody's enjoyment of the team and certainly the team's success. So I'm also looking forward to stuff like that. Can't wait to go through the second season with everybody. We had such a fun time the first one. I just can't wait, as you know, I really see this video and this end of August as that, you know, final closing chapter. I said that when we did the fan favorite moments, but I really feel like it's real this time, you know, and it's exciting. Can't wait for season 2. Let it begin. Yep. Let's go.
Yes, let's go. All right, and before we sign off, Dylan, show him the deep V one more time. Show it off.
Look at that. Look at that. It kind of wants to curl over on this one side, so it just looks like a polo that I haven't buttoned at any of the buttons on. Kind of from afar. It's kind of dark and the camera's not great, so I don't know if anyone could see that. But that was the first thing I noticed when I put it on. I was like, oh, it looks like I'm just a slob or whatever, which I guess, you know, you cut a deep V into your sweater. Some people might view it that way. Not that they would when it's on Adam Larsson, Erik Karlsson. Oh my god.
All right, we gotta redo the whole video.
Start over. It's all terrible. Philip Grubauer on the Mount Rushmore, the Kraken. What was I thinking?